Get educational. Hey, it's Get Educational. It's the series that I abandoned ages ago, where I just, talk about, or rather info dump about writing and creating techniques. Now, I'm not necessarily saying I abandoned it, I just haven't made one in a while. This is my first one in ages, and I'm going to talk about a little secret of mine, as that's a trick for a common problem. Now, the problem that a lot of people have is coming up with names for characters. Now I'm going to talk about a technique I use called name farming. Now, what this means is I have a section in my pocket notebook where I have my name farm, which is basically just where I keep names ready to be used. Now, the trick is to make sure I've got names already so that when I need to come up with one, I'm not left stuck. So the way it typically works is I'll source them from various different places. Now, just going to talk a little bit about where I get them from. So the first place I'd think to get names from is from real life around you. So sometimes you might just be talking to someone and you'll hear a word you like. That could become a name if you work on it. So I'd recommend writing down any words that you hear that you like. Sorry, I'm trying to record this. My dog is yelling outside. He's a great boy, but he's old and dumb. You could write down the names of people you've known or that you've encountered in the workplace. For example, I work at a place where I worked with all sorts of different people, communicated with all sorts of different people, and I had their full names, and sometimes I'd take their surname or just their first name and I'd just add it to my name farm, just for the sake of naming characters. For example, I think the name, I have got a character called Axel Threadgold, and his first name, Axel, was the name of someone that I encountered at work once when I used to work there. You could also use the names of historical figures that you like, people in your life that have had an impact on you, or just random people. Even if you don't like them, they might have a nice name, or even the names of places and businesses, that kind of thing. Like Defeat Benidorm, her surname is Benidorm, which is in Spain, and Victory Granada, her counterpart, also Granada comes from a place in Spain. So yeah, just places, people that you meet in real life. Just keep a note. Keep a log of those names. Okay, secondly, media sources. Now, that can be all sorts of things. So that can be songs, names, album names, even the names of musicians themselves, just their first names or surnames. I'd recommend that you only use the first name or surname, because you don't want your name to feel like a rip-off. However, if there's something about that name that's very important to them, there's nothing stopping you. There's also character names from other things, but never use the full character name, because it might be copyrighted for all you know. I just recommend using one of those names, so either the first or second name. You can do that. You can even use the names of celebrities, actors and directors, or even the names of journalists. For example, you might just be reading the news. You can just pick out a random article, even a clickbait article, and just write down the first name of the person who wrote it. You might find something good. So those are some activities to do with media that can help you find names. Another one would be cultural things. For example, names that are common in countries that you're not familiar with, so you might just pick a random country on the map and look up common names, and just write a few of them down that sound good, and they might be of use to you. It'll also add opportunities to diversify your cast. So you could say, oh yeah, mine is from, the Far East, because he's got a name like this. Or mine is from a Russian-speaking country, and therefore his name is like this, So it's easier to do that if you increase your country scope. Now, foods, instruments, or festival names. Naming someone after food might sound a bit silly, but you'll never know. You might find a food name you really like, or an instrument that you really like. I mean, come on, Ace Attorney, one of the most memorable prosecutors is Clavier Gavin. Clavier literally just means piano in German, so you can do whatever you want. Festival names also work, because everywhere around the world they have crazy names for festivals. All kinds of things. You can even use names that are religious. Let's say, for example, a lot of my stories tend to be based around angels, demons, and it's kind of got a bit of a theme of Christianity going through it, especially in one of my stories, where a lot of the characters tend to be Puritans during the witch hunt, because obviously my universe spans over a large period of time. I've also got angels in it that have Puritan names as well. I basically just looked up Puritan names because I actually found that Puritan names were really interesting through history class. So I've got characters that are named things like Providence, and I think there's another one called Humiliation. There's all kinds of names that you can pick up that actually have historical significance. So if there is any kind of religious significance behind your character, try a religious name. you know? There's quite a lot of interesting names in religious and mythological texts. Not necessarily just mainstream religious texts, but also ancient religion. Yeah, those are kinds of places where you can farm names from. Now, I'd suggest just having a name farming session, or just doing it in your daily life. Just carry around your notebook with you. Write down names you like, write down words you like. Now, when it comes to using that name farm, it's actually not hard. Once you've created your character, you can just scour through that farm to find a first name, and then try and match it up with another one for the surname. I'd say it's very important that the first name and surname flow together in a way that represents the character. So, like, you might want a long-winded name for a character who's quite sophisticated, or a short, snappy name for an exciting character. Kind of like how I might have hitmen who are named things like JJ Cool Guy, Radical Jason, for example, Bad Girlfriend, you know, all kinds of things. I come up with code names just by putting random words together and seeing what sounds snappy. You can just generate names by writing down words you like or phrases you like. In fact, I'm going to go back to nicknames and code names because that can be really useful. This obviously depends on what genre you use. If you're writing about performers, or if you're writing about people that use alias, it can be really good to just write down phrases that sound good. I've got a character who goes by the alias Dead Girl Alive, and that's just a name. I had a friend in high school who was in a relationship with somebody whose online username was Dead Girl Alive, and I liked the sound of it, so I used it, but it has importance to her character as well. Character called Noise Boy, because I like the way it sounds. Like I said before, Bad Girlfriend is a code name I've used, just because it's got a good punch to it. There's all sorts of, you know, name combinations you can make with that name farm that can actually give you really, like, interesting perspectives. It also kind of breaks the mold of just wanting to give them a really normal name, because a lot of people, they might just be tempted to call their characters something really easy, like David, or Tara or something. I don't know, they might be pretty easy names. But, you know, this will expand your horizons. If you write down all kinds of different things, you might be able to come up with a fun way of naming things. And especially since in my universe, for me, a lot of people have weird names. It kind of depends. You might have a bigger list than others if you do it that way. Some people might just have, like, a fairly small list because they like to use more traditional names. Sorry, my dog is going crazy. Must be someone at the door, I don't know. We have a big house, I can barely even hear the doorbell from my room, unless I have my door open. But yeah, that's the kind of thing that you can do with name farming. Now, quite a useful technique, but not many people use it. Or maybe they do and they don't talk about it. But I recommend you start a name farming list if you're one of those people who struggles to come up with names. So that way you can just open up your list and come up with one whenever you need it. It's amazing how useful it's been to me ever since I started doing it. You'd be surprised how much you can get out of the list. What I do is I rewrite the list, actually. I cross the names off of the list as I use them, but I might have to rewrite the ones that remain onto a new page because that list filled up a whole page. So I'll write the ones I've already got onto a new page, and then I'll add new names to it and make a new list. You know, you can keep the list going and keep adding to it, or you can alternately do it digitally. For websites such as Padlet or Tumblr, you can make a private page where you can put those names down, add and remove them whenever you want, so that way you don't have to worry about crossing things off. I personally do it in a notebook because I like to do things manually and analog. It's just how I enjoy writing. I like to switch from analog to digital all the time, just to get a taste of both. But do it however you want, but I recommend you try it out. Now, do you have any other name finding methods? Drop them in the comments so other people can try them out. But, you know, if that's how I like to name my characters, and maybe it'll help you too. I hope this has been helpful to you, at least a little bit, for now. I hope that does help. I hope you find it useful like I did, and I hope you have a good day. Don't forget to like if you like this video, and comment your own personal writing tricks for coming up with names. And if you're not subscribed already and you like what I'm doing, go ahead and sub. I've got all my links below: DeviantArt, Tumblr, Pagey World, and my website where you can commission me. The commissions are mainly for headshots, like the one that you're seeing now. And, you know, they'll be about $10 or more, so they're actually pretty cheap. I'm just trying to make a little money right now while I'm kind of in between jobs. But hopefully you'll be interested in that. And I've also got a Patreon now. I kind of have been putting it in my descriptions, but I haven't said it out loud. I've got Patreon where you can read ahead on all of my comics, and you can also see some exclusive stuff like sketches and, you know, other art that I do just for that. and all kinds of things, little work in progress shots. You know, a lot more content for you. I'm working on how much stuff I can put in that feed, but there will also be opportunities for free monthly artwork as well if you go for the higher tiers. But hopefully someone eventually picks up on that. I only recently started it, so I'm not expecting it to kick off into full force right away, but I do have a Patreon if you do want to sort of tip me once a month and support me in what I do. Have a good day, I love you guys, and peace out.